I just kept thinking, this is so unfair. I just want the answers. I want us to go away or have an operation, take my stomach out if you need to. That's what I used to scream when I was in agony, just cut me open and take it out.
Welcome back to Crisis What Crisis, the podcast that aims to guide you towards a more resilient life and whatever it might throw at you. If this is your first time with us, then please do hit subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. It really does help make sure that these, I hope, useful conversations are shared as widely as possible. My guest today is the supremely talented, universally beloved TV presenter and dancer Amy Dowden. Strictly Come Dancing legend, former national dance champion, and a contender for the title of Britain's most resilient woman. Having taken her first dance steps in a caravan park in Cornwall, Amy's career has taken her to competitions around the world. A British Championship title, a dream role on the show that she'd watched since she was a young girl. Amy can appreciate this success more than most. Indeed, all of her remarkable achievements have come in the face of a series of health crises that would have stopped most of us in our tracks. We'll talk about Amy's experience living with Crohn's disease, which she's struggled with from the age of 11. The illness still has a huge impact on Amy's life, illustrated so movingly in her powerful BBC documentary, which she recorded back in 2020. And last year, Amy was diagnosed with breast cancer. Months later, a second cancer was found. She also developed the potentially deadly condition sepsis. Somehow, throughout it all, Amy has pushed on and pushed through with a sense of positivity and resilience that is truly inspiring. The show, Dare to Dance, which Amy was recording when she received her cancer diagnosis, is available now on BBC iPlayer, where she brings her unique Strictly sparkle, doing what she does best. You can find links to this in the show notes. Now, this is a great time to be talking to Amy because just a few days ago, she was given some incredible news. That long course of chemo and other treatments that she'd received had done their job, leaving her cancer-free. Great news. Amy Dowden, welcome to Crisis What Crisis.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that lovely intro.
It's great to see you. So, Amy, last week, after a scan, you were told that there was no evidence of cancer. 4 truly amazing words to hear, I suspect.
Yeah, absolutely, and something that you dream of. I'd been having some bone issues, and I think I just kind of like told myself that, yeah, it spread to the bones, and that was it. And when the doctor said, we have found something, your heart just sinks. But he said, but it's not cancer. And I was crying. I do have impingement of the shoulder, and, I can get some physio injections, or, there's things I can fix that. So that's okay. It was just relief. And the pain I was having there, I knew it wasn't muscle. I knew it was something else because of obviously years of dancing and training. And I guess after everything you've been through, your mind just takes you to, it's spread kind of. You always just think the worst after everything. Like I've been through, like you're told at the beginning of chemo, you're at the risk of sepsis, blood clots. I had it all. So I just think I just kind of had got myself to a point where I was adamant. And I cried then with my twin sister afterwards. And then since then, I can't stop but giggle and smile and just know that I've been given another shot of life, and I'm going to grab every opportunity. Along the way, I'd met people also going through their cancer battles, one of which is Nikki, a young girl in her 30s as well. And, and sadly she lost her life along the way, and she did so much to raise awareness. The most beautiful human. And she always said, go grab life. So that's my motto now. It's go grab life. And I wore a T-shirt with, go grab life on the last day of my chemo, for her. And, so she knew that, I'm listening. And, with that, I'm going to do this for you as well.
It's amazing. And for your family as well, your parents, your husband, Ben, your sister you mentioned, all been at your side throughout all of this. So that piece of news as well just must have been an incredible moment, obviously, for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think, especially my parents, have really slept since May. And, I've seen the pain in the eyes of what it's what it's done to them and the toll it's taken on them. And I think people forget it's not just the individual going through it, it's their loved ones as well who are suffering so much. And my mum also has battled cancer twice, thyroid and breast cancer. And she said that the worst was far worse here, and that her little girl had it herself. My twin sister is the midwife, and, she'd watched all what I've suffered with my Crohn's, and just her and my brother just felt it was so unfair. Why is Amy being dealt all these bad cards in life and not us? But I wouldn't want them to have had to go through anything that I've had to. But yeah, we're an incredibly, incredibly close family. And my, and my husband as well, who was Mr. Positive all the way through it and gave me the tough love when I also needed it. And I had an incredible group of friends as well. You really learn during these times who your friends and family are. And I'm lucky enough to say that I really, truly do have the best. And my friends kind of had a chemo group going that they all came to a different chemo each with me, and, would come and take in turns to come and sit with me at the house. So Ben, who's also self-employed, my husband, could go to work at least and give him a little bit of normality. Yeah. But I don't think he had any normality throughout it, though. We were really, really lucky with our friends and family who just kind of gave up their lives for the last few months, to take care of Ben and I.
So this amazing support system, your family, your Strictly family as well, we'll talk about that. But what I really want to do today, Amy, is learn about you, about your resilience, your, quite frankly, remarkable ability to persevere through what have been so many sort of layers of crisis. This is not one problem that you've had to deal with. From the age of 11, really, is just a remarkable story of resilience, and that's what I'm keen to talk about today. So, if you don't mind, let's go back to the start. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Tell me about growing up in Wales, in Caerphilly, about what it was like, growing up with your twin sister Rebecca, who you mentioned. I think she was your first dance partner, wasn't she?
She was, and I'm so lucky to have a twin sister, although I don't know what it's like not to, obviously, but we truly are best friends, and we got to every milestone in life, we've been here for each other, and I always relied on her and vice versa, and grown up in Caerphilly, a lovely town, full of all our friends and family, parents who devoted their lives to us children. I look back at my childhood and only think of happy memories. I'd started dancing at the age of 8, and it quickly took over my life. And they're I had the second parents there, Philip and Carol Perry, who were my dance teachers until this day, is still my mentors, and have been with me every step of the way. So I'm very, very lucky, and, got incredibly close friends as well, still at home. But my parents really did do everything in order for us children to give us the best opportunities in life. My dad worked 7 days a week in order for us to be able to go and do the hobbies. And they always said that they didn't care which career we took in life, so long as we were happy, whether if that was working in a supermarket to going off to do other things. But what they did do is they saw where our love and our passion was, and they pushed us. So they did everything in order, extra tutoring as well as our dancing. They made sure we all had jobs as well, part-time jobs to teach us, the work ethic in that. But we also had them to look up to. And, my dad always would say, I can remember the night I won the British, how lucky am I to have had you, Lloyd and Rebecca, and the careers you've chosen. But actually, we wouldn't have done it if it wasn't down to them. My mum would work out what percentages we need in each exam from our grades and our coursework to be able to get. So we got onto the courses and universities that we all wanted to. They did. They went beyond and above, and they sacrificed pretty much their lives.
And would you say that stability has been the sort of bedrock of your resilience? Would you say that Absolutely. That kind of confidence that they've given you as well, I'm sure, has been Absolutely. The kind of foundation for you?
100%. And watching my dad's work ethic and the kindest soul. Everybody who meets my dad, they fall in love with him. Especially Strictly and all the celebrities, they all know him. And when if he walks into a room, Stacey Dooley is like, it's Richard Dowden. And I think that's because of his infectious personality. To my mum, who, growing up, I had to watch her with her thyroid cancer battle, where she was always having treatment and thyroxine to when...
What age were you when that was diagnosed?
So it started just before I was born, but treatment would continue.
Right.
And she's got a scar right across here to then I was 19.
So you had a very 20. There was a very sort of visceral example of resilience as well. And with that, she was behaving in the way that you just described as this incredible mother, a lesson that you obviously were absorbing all the way, along the road.
Yeah, and then I was 20 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, where you're very aware and you're very scared of the words cancer. And you just instantly think, I can't lose my mum. And I remember, obviously, I had my Crohn's disease. And when they told me, I become really violently sick because I was so worried, and stress is the worst thing for Crohn's. And I can remember I'd been vomiting all night, and my mum just came and sat on the sofa with me, and she just said to me, Mum's not going anywhere, Amy, you don't need to worry. And I think, her strength and the way she dealt with it and pushed on. And obviously when I heard the word, sorry, Amy, it's cancer, I knew well, my mum's been through it. That gave me the hope, if you know what I mean.
Your mind went straight there, did it?
Yeah, absolutely. And mum's got through it. And also a very dear friend of mine, Jenny, who got diagnosed in 2020. We've just been on that journey with her, which also made it quite scary for me because it was very fresh in my mind, everything she'd been through. And my husband, we were there every step of the way for her. My husband used to take her children to school for her when she was on chemo to help her out. But seeing that she'd got through it as well, I think it was, I was lucky to have those people around me very close that I knew, right, okay, I've seen success stories, from people, very close and who have a major impact in my life. So I guess that gave me the determination and the courage and the strength that it's going to be okay. You never know. Obviously, your mind does go to the scariest of places as well. But I just kept them at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, I'm interested to talk about that. Your sort of, the phrase we use on this podcast is your operating system, right? How you were dealing with it day to day. I'm very keen to talk about, but let's just track back a little bit, if we may. So you're this energetic, buzzy child, talented child. Your dancing talent is already evident for everyone to see. You're competing, you're excelling, and then one day out of the blue, you start feeling unwell. I suspect actually it was more gradual than that, I'm sure. But you start experiencing the symptoms of what will later be diagnosed as Crohn's disease. You're 11 years old. And I think it's fair to say your life sort of completely changed from that point onward. So can you just give us a feeling, Amy, if you can, for that stage of your life and that diagnosis and what it meant, in kind of practical terms for you and the family?
So at 11 years old, the pain came on and the vomiting, the diarrhea, losing consciousness when I was in so much pain. And I think, my family were just so worried. And I think we always used to think at the beginning it's appendicitis, and I'd get rushed in, we'd find out it's not. But I had 2 cousins with Crohn's disease, and instantly my aunties would be saying it's the same as them. And I think my parents always knew in the back of their mind it's Crohn's disease, and I'd very aware of what's going on around me. But it took 8 years for a diagnosis, 8 frustrating years. And at some point it felt like, by the experts, we wasn't being listened to. The GP was always amazing, but at the hospital, I wasn't getting the tests, and I wasn't, I guess, getting the answers or the treatment. And it took to when I was 19 years old, and I got so poorly that
So it was 8 years of this before the diagnosis.
8 years. And it would come and go, and my mum would do a food diary, and be marking off in the calendar a good week to then a bad week, and you just never knew when it was going to come. And also it was embarrassing for me to be going to school, and I'll never forget one time in a science class needed in the toilet a ridiculous amount of times, and put my arm up and everyone laughing, and then the teacher saying no, I couldn't go to the toilet because I'd been so many times, and I just had to run out and go. I was in so much pain. And, my parents having to go up to school and then explain things. It was really tough as a teenager. And then you're like, I didn't have answers. I couldn't say to my friends, it was this or it was that, or to the teachers.
Let's talk about your teenage resilience then, just for a second. Right? I mean, how were you? You never mind the sort of practical details, or difficulties of that. It's the emotional stuff, right? And it's particularly at a very kind of difficult age where kids can be pretty mean. Just that one anecdote that you've given us there, right? You can imagine that for a child, that's terribly, terribly difficult. How were you managing that then as a teenager? Was that? I guess if we go back to the support you're getting from your family, that was a factor, right? That you were able to go home and talk about it, one assumes, was the single most important thing.
Yeah, and I very much I'm a talker and I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I just go home and cry. But I just get so embarrassed. I'd be sat in the toilet and waiting for everybody to leave before I left the door, but I was very lucky that I had a brilliant class at school, and they all got to know, because ambulances would be a frequent thing for me. It's still, it's a giggle, isn't it, in the class, sure, whether they meant it or not. I think I would make it an issue in my head because I was so conscious of it. Or if we had a supply teacher who had no idea what was going on, it was just, I'd say it was embarrassing more than anything for me, I felt.
Yes.
And frustrating, because for me, I just wanted to be dancing. And every time I was in hospital, it meant I wasn't on the dance floor, I wasn't at the dance lessons, or it was another competition I was missing out on. And I just kept thinking, this is so unfair. I just want the answers. I want us to go away or have an operation, take my stomach out if you need to. That's what I used to scream when I was in agony, just cut me open and take it out. So I just wanted my old life back. I wanted to be the Amy. I didn't have these worries, I guess.
But what you could easily have done is, because dancing is not straightforward choice, even as a child, right? It is hard work, physically hard work. You could easily have said, with this is just impossible. But you never did. In fact, you sort of turned it into a sort of fundamental part of your sort of day-to-day kind of a method of handling the diagnosis, right? It became it almost became part, it seems from this distance that it became part of the solution for you, right? To push even
It was my
harder.
medicine. It was my medicine at that time when I was back dancing, and it gave me something to work towards. Dancing was my happy place. It was my escapism, and still is now, escapism from reality. And I never forget, from the age of 8 years old, walking into the Tower Ballroom, and earlier that year we'd been to Disney, and I turned and I said, "Ma'am, this is better than Disneyland, and I want to be a professional dancer." They had to bribe me out of the ballroom with a McFlurry, and I'd watch Kevin Clifton, who, I went later on Strictly, won the championships that day, and I was like, I want to become a Blackpool champion. And I had these dreams and ambitions, and dancing really was my happy place. And I do wonder what my mental health would have been like, how I would have pushed myself through, these excruciating pain, these long stays in hospital, if I didn't have, the desire, the determination to get back on the dance floor. But at the same time, would I have achieved what I have done if I hadn't been through what I've been through and the cards I've been dealt in life? From being in hospital for 6 weeks at 19 years old, missing out on Blackpool, and
so how is that then, Amy? Because we can keep attributing this to the wonderful childhood that you had, but in truth, there is something in you, even as a teenager, that is so determined and so fixed on what it is you want to achieve in life, because the easy decision, right? One might say the likely decision that someone would reach in those circumstances is, of course it can't be dancing. It's going to have to be something else. That's. And I assume that there were people around you who were possibly even saying that, not your family who were right behind you, but I'm assuming that along the way there were people saying, look, this is just going to be too difficult. This is the wrong choice. Am I right?
100%. And I made me even more angry and frustrated because when you'd have medical professionals say, stop the dancing, you'd be like, hang on a minute, you're not living in my body, you're not living with the pain. How dare you? And I think that gave me the more determination. I'm a person that if you tell me you can't, I will. And I think I was very lucky to have found something I'm passionate about and what I love at such a young age. And I guess dance was my savior. And I also knew what it felt like to have something I loved being taken away from me. So like when I was hospitalized for weeks on end or for 6 weeks at one point, I knew what it felt like to have my dancing taken away from me. So when I could dance, I was going to do anything I possibly could in order to do it. And I guess I wonder, would I have achieved what I've achieved today if it wasn't for what I've been through? Because it's taught me resilience. It's like my Crohn's disease taught me strength. It taught me real pain. So maybe when I was in the training room leading up to the British Championships, I pushed myself that little bit harder because I knew what it was like to have excruciating pain that make you pass out. And I think it gave me that, like, I'm going to show you kind of thing. And I want to be Amy the dancer, not Amy with Crohn's disease. I always used to tell myself and be known for that. So I do wonder, I think, both have taught me an awful lot in life. But I do think it didn't have to be my dancing. Maybe it was if I had another passion for something else, reading or for, I don't know, school or becoming an English teacher or something. Like, I think I was just lucky that I found a passion.
So that's the advice then, isn't it? Because this pod is about passing on those lessons. Yeah. Find something that you're truly passionate about and put it to work. Not just for what it brings, of itself as a career or whatever form it takes, but to use it as a means to get through.
But also, like, it doesn't even have to be like a job. It can be a hobby. It can just be something that takes you away from, your reality or your pain. Or, when I'd be in so much pain, I'd be thinking about my next dancing dress or the next competition or how I was going to walk onto the floor, rather than trying to, get fixated on like those 4 hospital walls, which is so easy to, because I had my twin sister off at university at one point and all I was doing was in and out of hospital constantly.
But with your twin, it strikes me that you've got this, you're obviously incredibly close, but you're seeing her life running alongside yours, going in a completely different, a healthy direction. That must have been incredibly difficult for you both, actually.
Yeah, it was frustrating. And I think for my twin, she would get so upset and anxious and, why all me? But at the same time, I'd look at her and off living the university life where I was just in and out of hospital and I had these enormous dreams that just seemed to be fading away. And I was just like, you'd go on the social media channels because they were taking off at that age and all my friends are living the life of uni. And at the time I had no life, and I just wanted to just like scream and shout to the doctors, like, you're taking everything away from me. Look what my friends are doing. I want to be doing what they're doing, not here. Please just give me an answer. And the day I found out it was Crohn's disease, I actually kind of celebrated. Like, I don't think anybody celebrates being told they've got a chronic condition, a condition they're going to have to live with for the rest of their life. But for me, it was like, finally, I've got answers. So finally, we can start the medication or surgery or go down the route to, to finally get this in control so I can continue with my life kind of thing. And I always remember that day so clearly when it was like, you have Crohn's disease and you're terminally ill. I was just like, hallelujah kind of thing. Like, okay, now I can actually begin my life.
Before that diagnosis, how were you dealing with the anger? I mean, you've said you've got a wonderful phrase, don't get bitter, get better. Yeah. But those, which is wonderful, but easily said, hard to do, right? You mentioned, why me there, which is the sort of, a totally understandable position that people who find themselves in those kind of circumstances can fall towards. How did you stay out of that bitterness pit?
I didn't stay out of it, and I guess I learnt that phrase because of it. And I would get so angry and so upset. And sometimes my parents would be so worried, I'd just get in my car and drive. It's like I wanted to drive away from my, from everything that I was dealing with. But I guess I've learned over the years to really talk, to let my emotions out, and that is okay to feel angry and upset, frustrated. But I guess as well, over time, getting my condition under control and being able to go on and live the life that I wanted helped. But yeah, in those moments, just remembering that I will get better, and to persevere, basically.
So let's talk about the operating system in that phase then, right? When you're in the bitterness pit, what is it that you're saying to yourself to get closer to the exit?
I start with, it's not fair, why me? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is going to be a couple of days or a week or so of pain, but you will get back down and so on. And I just fixate myself on either a performance or being back with the Strictly Preps or just something or a new costume, or I watch dancing videos on YouTube of my favourite dancers, or I'm listening to a podcast.
You just focus on something that you knew would give you, even if it's just for a brief period, a sense of joy.
Yeah, and freedom from my then reality at the time. Yeah, absolutely. And a little goal, set myself a realistic goal. And every day I was working towards that goal.
Give us some examples, Amy, of the goals that you set yourself.
So when I was in hospital, when I was 19, for 6 weeks, I was missing out on Blackpool, the British Championships. And that was in the May, but in the end of July, there was the UK Championships. And I was like, okay, I'm missing out now, but I'm going to make it to the UK Championships. I'm going to get fit. And okay, I might not get the result I want because I've missed out on so much training, but I'm going to be on that dance floor doing what I love, surrounded in diamantes and, my
You sort of visualised it, did you?
Yeah, visualised it. I used to visualise the costumes I wanted, or even just planning out, in the next year's competition calendar, or watching back my old competition at the time DVDs, and trying to learn from my performance, video performance analysis, I guess you'd call it now.
You start dancing with your now husband Ben Jones.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about how the two of you first met and about those sort of early years together.
So we used to be each other's dance rivals. So we used to compete against each other, and one would win one and one would win the other. And then our coaches thought we would be better together. And so we had to try what we call in our dance industry a tryout, and we just instantly clicked, and we decided to start off this dancing journey together. And then we soon fell in love. And for me, Ben is he's a very different character to me. I'm very stressed out, want everything to be right. I want to, want the results, where he is more chilled and relaxed, and he's perfect for me. We're the opposites. And when I would get frustrated and angry with a dance result, he would see the bigger picture and be like, okay, we didn't win, but it's not going to change what we're doing in the training room tomorrow. We were always going to be working on this. So yeah, and he's far more talented and creative than I am. So yeah, I was very lucky to have met him, and we were lucky enough to go on and become British champions, and to have been able to do, to take that title with somebody you love, and that huge milestone in our life that we always get to share together. But also, he was so understanding of my Crohn's, and he never took her out on me when he wasn't suffering, but he would suffer because he would be missing out on competitions when
yes.
I was well enough to. We went all the way to Paris for the World Championships, and, he literally had to get me home. As quick as we started dancing, we were then getting on the next flight home, because he knew I was about to have a flare-up and started being ill. And by the time we got to the UK, I was in an ambulance going off, and there he is missing out on doing what he loves and what he's trained to do.
So that's literally on the eve. That's on the eve of the competition. You're in Paris. You're ready to go, and then you get struck down.
Not being sick, and he just knows.
Right, and and in practical, that is a flight home. That's straight into an ambulance. That's into hospital.
Yeah, and and then I'm there for a couple of days, and even sometimes now he'll watch Strictly, and he knows when I walk down the stairs with my partner, Amy's not well. He can just tell by the look in my eyes, and I'll never forget, in 2019, he was watching, and it was Halloween week, and he knew when he got in the car, and he was straight to me, and he was there by the time the end of the show.
Just from what he'd seen, he'd noticed it on the TV.
Yeah, he knew. And I guess, like, so he went through punishment, but he never took it out on me, that we were missing this, or, you know, he would always be the one to know, like, you need to rest or otherwise you're going to have a flare up, or, and, you know, like, that was his career on the line on many times, but he understood it. And I'm not sure many people would have.
You achieved a huge amount together. Welsh champions, British Championship finalists, World Championships semi-finalists. But in 2016, your success reaches another level, as we touched on, and you win the British Championships. But before that moment, you got a call from the Strictly producers, I think. A call that you'd been dreaming about, visualising about, I suspect, you know, in those dark moments that you've described so brilliantly. About realising a dream that you had from childhood. Just tell us about that. And you're then thrown into a dilemma, to put it mildly.
Yeah, so both my dreams came at the same time, I guess. Out of the blue, Strictly Come Dancing had called me and they'd asked me to come down. I went down. Never in a million years that I think this would progress to anything. You know, they'd scouted me, and then they asked me, did I want to become the first ever Welsh professional dancer to join the show? And at the time, you know, my now husband and I didn't have a penny to our name with. Sorry. We were competing all over the world. We were traveling back and forth to LA. We had several jobs to be able to fund our dancing career because, you know, other than, like, say, a dance dress or a shoe sponsor, you don't get any funding or help.
What were the other jobs, can I ask?
Yes, I'd be teaching dancing. I'd worked for, I was a secretary at a medical company growing up. I'd done, like, worked in a hair salon, Pizza Hut, worked in special needs school, which I loved. Teaching Zumba classes, dancing classes, just anything. Worked for Barrett Homes at one point to be able to fund it. We had a dream when we first danced together, but to become Blackpool, the British champions. And then this phone call came and they offered me the job, and going on Strictly obviously would have changed everything. You know, we were setting up our own dance school, so just the profile of what he does to your name would have helped us with our
transformative.
Yeah, we were living with his parents in his parents' house. We generally, like, we wouldn't have been able to survive if we wasn't for his parents. Would put us up and would, you know, feed us. So, because all our money literally went to going back and forth, because our coach lived in America. So LA, we were flying back and forth there for our lessons every other month. So that Strictly was, you know, a childhood dream, like, and a life-changing opportunity. But then there was the British Championships, and they wasn't asking Ben if he wanted to go on the show, because they were only looking for females at the time. And, you know, an all British parent, as in terms of two parts of the partnership, hadn't took this title in over 20 years. So, you know, what a moment that could have been. But also, there's no guarantee you're going to win. You know, I could have had a Crohn's flare, or the judges, someone else could have danced better on night, or a new couple could have formed, or, you know, anything could have happened. It could have just not been on night to dance well. No, we're human. But, you know, how could I take that away from Ben? How could I take that away from our
he wanted you to take it, right?
No, he wanted me to do what was right for me. But I knew equally the drive, the determination that, you know, like, he wanted that British title for him, for that his family too. They wanted it so much, and they sacrificed so much for us. And, you know, getting a black belt title makes you eligible to judge, because, you know, there's only so many British champions, and you're there in that program, that name, that title, a former British champion, goes next to your name forever. It's like a PhD, I guess, in our dancing world. And how could I take that away from Ben? How could I live with myself and go, you know, there was Strictly, and the time it spent with Strictly in the process of it, had seen what an incredible Strictly family they was, and I had friends on the show. But I didn't know what TV world was like. So I was also going into something that, you know, I might not have been for me. But also I had to make a decision I could live with for the rest of my life.
Well, that's what I love. That's what I love about this story, is that you're not just having given us a flavour of just how focused you'd been on achieving that. When the moment comes, you're able to zoom back from that moment and think, actually, what does this moment mean in terms of my life, right? What does it mean in terms of, my whatever's going to come further down the road for me? Quite aside from, recognising the value of this for Ben as well, but it's unbelievable. It's a really fascinating thing that, having had so much focus on achieving this, when it's offered to you, you're able to kind of actually, no, I'm going to pull back from that and make a decision very much in the long term. Because you didn't know you didn't know at all that you'd get another offer, right? When they come, and the moment when the door opens, it could well shut forever.
Absolutely. And I was talking about the opposite, like from other pros on the show. They were like, they'll never ask you again. And I was the first ever professional announcer to turn the show down. And, British one at that, like crazy. And I was being offered the first ever announcement of being the first ever Welsh pro. But I had to make a decision I could live with for the rest of my life. And I just kind of told Strictly at the time, I was in tears, like saying, I hope that if this ever opportunity comes again, you can see that I'm loyal, that I'm focused on entertainment, and, I would give you my everything, but it just wasn't the right time in my life. And I didn't know at the time, was I making the right decision? I had many people telling me, no, go do it, to other people saying, no, don't. But I had to sit back and go, what's right for me? Let's be true to myself. And I'm so lucky that it all worked. It did all work out. And I did then the following year get the opportunity. The producer called and said, it's now the right time. And the Strictly team, they were so understanding. And when I did win Blackpool, they did email straight away to say that I'd made the right decision, and that they, when they found out that they'd all screamed in the production office, and they, were happy, got applause for me. So, but at the time, obviously, I had no idea.
Outstanding. And Strictly, I know, were incredibly supportive, with regard to, your health and Crohn's diagnosis, where there'd been others who I think you'd lost jobs, right? You'd lost work because of that diagnosis. There were some people who just didn't want to take you on, didn't want the risk that it brought.
No.
But Strictly took a completely different view, didn't they? To their great credit.
I had, before Ben, I'd go for tryouts for partnerships auditions, and as soon as you mention your health, nope, they see you as a risk, for you to jobs that don't, they don't want, you're a liability to them. And it was all about breaking a stigma. And I used to get so angry because I'm punished enough by living with this condition for the rest of my life. Why, just because I have Crohn's disease doesn't take away my work ethic, my talents, and everything I've strived for. Like, don't punish me even more. And I guess when Strictly offered me the job, in the back of my mind was always like, well, when I tell them I have Crohn's disease, it might not even work out anyway. And I told them, and they were like, yeah, it's fine. If you can go on and win Blackpool, Amy, you can do Strictly. And just make sure you put it in your insurance, in the contract and thing. And I was like, and they were just like, well, all we need to know is what can we do to help you? And I was just like, I can't quite believe this. Like, this is surreal. And then after being on the show for 2 years, and I was like, I want to speak out and I want to help others. And I don't want others to go through what I've had to go through, and for work employees to understand, and family and friends to understand, bosses to understand. But, I was so incredibly lucky that the production team at Strictly are human and they really do care for us dancers.
I mean, credit to them, but credit to you as well, because the work that you've done around the sort of, as you are right now, talking about this and shining a light on it, I think has made an enormous difference to those that have kind of come behind you. I'm going to keep coming back to this theme of resilience, though, of overcoming setbacks. So in the pandemic, your wedding's cancelled. Your highly anticipated solo tour is cancelled. And I think you have a pretty dramatic, very difficult flare-up, Crohn's kind of attack, if you like. All kind of coming in a very short period of time. Again, Amy, how did you get through that period?
Oh, was such a weird time, wasn't it? And also we just took on a new studio, a dance studio. An old gym had shut down, and we took on this premises, and we
had the financial pressure of that as well.
Yes, we had major financial pressure there. We just spent thousands on doing it up. We'd outgrown our last one, which was amazing, and our kids needed bigger and better facilities, basically. And we hadn't even been in there a year. We'd just been in there months, and obviously, so we wasn't set. No one saw this coming. So, and we're both self-employed, and then like everybody else, overnight everything got stripped back. A wedding, which you'd been so excited and looking forward to, and the plans that you knew that wasn't going to happen. I was on the shielding list, and you're scared for your Crohn's and what might happen then if you get COVID. You're away from like everyone else, your loved ones. It was a scary time. Like everybody else, you have mortgages and everything else to cover, and I'd ploughed all my Strictly money that I'd had into the studio, and it was just all about surviving and keep just somehow not losing our academy over that time that that was our dream and something we got to do together, and we couldn't take that away from the kids.
And you managed your way through that. That was a day by day, week by week kind of challenge, I suspect.
We actually offered our dance academy. All of them had free lessons throughout the whole time, because you didn't know how long it was going to go on for, but we didn't want our students to lose the interest or to lose what their normality was. And that helped us both, I guess. And I did end up quite poorly, and I was due to the stress of it all, I'm sure, with my Crohn's. But yeah, we did come out the other side. It was like we were determined no matter what we did, and even to Ben's parents, bless them, they wouldn't have watched us lose it. And even when we came out of COVID, it was still a long slog, especially for the performing arts industry. There were so many months where kids couldn't even touch, and we brought them a Latin new dance together, and I'd say we're still coming through the whole of our industry. It's just coming out of that now, I'd say.
Yes.
Just.
Yeah. Because people assume, they see you on the TV and they think, well, you're all right.
Yeah.
I mean, the calculation is that sort of brutal, isn't it? And yet there are people, we've talked about this in previous podcasts, in the creative arts in particular, who were, actors who, prior to the pandemic, were on stage in the West End, who were then delivery drivers, right? Having to, just pull together the cash to be able to get through the week, the month, because you are all self-employed. And it's a wonderful profession, but it is also a very vulnerable profession. So post-pandemic, you released an amazing documentary that raised that awareness in terms of the Crohn's challenge that you faced. You finally get married to the man you love. You appear in Strictly 2020, 2021, 2022. The dancing school is flying, I think. You're dancing on the 2023 arena tour. Amidst all this positivity, you've punched through so much. We've just scraped the surface of it, really, Amy. But it's clearly, the challenge has never really stopped for you. It's always been part of the background, it seems to me. And then the day before you are due to go on your honeymoon, in fact, you discover a lump on your breast. Tell us about that moment, and tell us about the decision that you made immediately after.
So I was up in Blackpool, and we were staying in a little B&B, and the showers are tiny in there, and because we were up there for my students were all dancing at the British Championships, and it's a crazy day. You're up at like 4 something, ready to get them all ready, and I was in the shower, and lucky enough it was a tiny shower. I felt the lump. And instantly I was just like, disregarded it. And in fact, the whole day it was in the back of my mind. And, and I'm trying to focus on the kids. And then I get home and we're going to the Maldives the next day on our honeymoon, which we'd been so looking forward to. We'd been so crazy with work since we got married, and I went straight off onto Strictly, because obviously we should have got married obviously in 2020, and then the only date available, was a certain date which we had to take, because like everybody, they're postponing their weddings. And so we got married, and off I went for 6 months, and then off I went on tour and everything like that. So we were so looking forward to our honeymoon. And I got home and I checked it again, and it was there. And then you instantly go on Google and everything comes up, and then I just thought, I can't tell Ben because he won't be going on holidays tomorrow. We needed this holiday, and I was so looking forward to it. But as much as I was smiling in front of him, my whole day was in the back of my mind. I just knew, I had this gut feeling, I just knew it was bad.
Did you?
And every day
really?
you were
Instantly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'd only just, after being partnered with Tom Fletcher, I've become so close to Giovanna Fletcher and Tom Fletcher, and I did a Copperfield trek with Giovanna just the week before my wedding. And
Copperfield is this amazing charity.
Yes, and it's all about obviously getting women and men to check their chests. So I'd learned the importance of it, and I'd, trekked with amazing ladies who'd been through it, and you learn a lot about how it feels and how to check yourself. And every day I was rubbing lotion, and I could just feel it, and I was just like, wasn't going anywhere. And the more Googling I was doing and messaging my friends who's been through and asking them questions, I didn't tell them. I think one kind of worked it out. And then I got back, and I was so busy at my brother's wedding. I was going to be presenting with the coronation, and obviously this lump didn't go away. And then I lifted my arm after one day in the mirror bed, and I were doing a dance show, and I saw it, and I was just like, oh. And then I just realised the importance. I need to get this checked. And
because of your mum, because of your friend, your mind.
Yeah. I just went into overdrive, and then I went, and everything happened so fast. But I knew, and I just I kind of just even knew, I got a small chest, and I haven't had children, so I wouldn't be producing milk, and just certain things that it'd been there. It didn't come and go, so it couldn't have been part of the cycle. I had this gut feeling, and I just knew that it was breast cancer. So even when they told me, it wasn't a shock. It was still like, okay, it's reality, but I was expecting it. And overnight then, when you hear the news, your life changes, and it changes forever. And it wasn't even just you got breast cancer. It was, in the next sentence, what's your fertility plans? Because I had a hormone-fed cancer, so they were going to need to put me into the menopause. And I just got married. My husband's next to me. Of course, we want a family. So that, I think, was even tougher to take, the news of that, than the cancer. And then I was originally having a lumpectomy, and then I did an MRI, and there was more tumours. And then so I had a mastectomy, and then after the mastectomy, the pathology come back, and I had ductal and lobular cancer. And then there was chemo, and then that's strictly out the cards, and with chemo comes everything else. Yeah, and
Amy, I'm so sorry for what you've been through.
No, it's and I'm not the only one.
No, I know you're not the only one, and I know that your natural instinct will be to go to how lucky you are. But my goodness, it's not just about that moment and even that short period of time that you just described. It's the fact that it's come after so much challenge in your life.
Yeah.
That's never really left you. I mean, it's been the backdrop to your life.
The only thing I guess I can't take from it was, at least I'm used to hospital stays. I'm used to injections and tests.
That is what's called positive thinking, Amy, at its most extreme. If the best thing you can say to yourself is, at least I know what it is to spend time in hospital. I mean, forgive me, but you're incredible. I mean, this resilience is just extraordinary.
Thank you. I guess I've been tested more than, let's say, most. But I guess it's also taught me resilience, taught me strength and determination and courage. And I've been at the darkest of places. And then I guess you learn to, you've been given a second chance at life to go and grab life. But obviously it's changed me as a person forever, that's for sure.
Just tell me then, after the cancer diagnosis and what came after, as you've described, a second cancer diagnosis, and then also, I think at one stage, I touched on it in the intro, you developed sepsis. We've talked a lot about sepsis on this podcast. We had the actor Jason Watkins on quite recently. He sadly lost his daughter to undiagnosed sepsis, and has been campaigning on that.
Yeah.
I mean, another moment for most people, would only end in despair. Chemo
wasn't really in the cards, you see. And then when it was, I knew I had ductal cancer, but I didn't know it was lobular as well. And the surgeons wasn't expecting that either. So this was a completely, a turn, and I got quite low about it. And my oncologist was like, "You've got really good chance of cure, but we're going to do chemo." And I didn't want to do chemo. First of all, I didn't want to lose my hair. And some people might find that silly, but it was my identity. I'm a dancer. And also I knew I wasn't going to be able to dance then. And it was a lot to get my head around the chemo, and that I had to go down this journey. I'd had chemo on the Thursday, and by the Saturday I had collapsed home, and I was rushed into hospital. I didn't want to go into hospital. I was scared because I knew I had no white blood cells on that day. I had a bone marrow injection that morning, and I just knew that going into A&E was going to be a massive risk. And lucky enough, the ambulance men kind of pushed me. They couldn't make me, but they encouraged me, and they did end up convincing me to go in. I did take a turn in the ambulance, got to the hospital, they rushed me in, and my mum was with me, and everyone rushed around me, and then I come back. No, she's got an infection, but she's okay. And about 2:30 in the morning, my mum left me. And she said I was okay, and I was talking. She said, "You were very unwell, but we could see you were making improvements." So, and then in the morning, my husband had called to see how I was, and the nurse, the doctor wants to speak to you. And my husband's like, "What?" Because obviously my husband's so used to me going in with my Crohn's. He rings from that day and checks what time's visiting times, what does she need. The doctor needs to speak, puts her on loudspeaker. My mum and my dad are next to them, and they said she's got sepsis. And my mum and my dad just broke to the floor because we'd lost my auntie last year.
They knew exactly what it meant.
Yeah, that's what my auntie passed away from unexpectedly. And then he said, and also we think she's got a blood clot on the lung. And she's not responding at the moment to treatment. She's gone unresponsive. So my parents went into meltdown mode. Ben went into protection mode of them. They got to the hospital. I wasn't in the room. I was having an emergency CT scan, and the doctor had just said to my mum had to walk away. My husband said, but he'd said my heart rate and my blood pressure was so low that I probably wouldn't function more than 16 hours. My organs would go into failure. They felt I'd gone into septic shock. And they were very worried, and the intensive care team were ready to get involved as soon as I'd come up from my scan. Lucky enough, they changed the antibiotics, and I think 8 hours in, I
began to respond. But there was a period there where your family were seriously concerned that they were going to lose you.
I woke up and saw the pain when I saw the pain in my parents' eyes, and I don't think they've been the same since. And it was so tough for them to have watched that, especially after what we've been through with my auntie. I don't think they've been the same and never will be the same again. And that was just after chemo number 1. And I know when I needed to go again for another chemo. I just got unlucky. And even with having Crohn's disease, I have a lower immune system anyway. I've met many people who've gone through chemo, and that is the big, unfortunate side effect that, you get a cold and instantly it can turn to pneumonia in a matter of hours, and that you don't have the white blood cells and you don't have the immune system to be able to fight back, basically, and you need help. It was a very, very tough time. And at the same time was the week that all the pros started rehearsing together, the celebrities were being announced on Strictly, and that's where I just wanted to be. I didn't want to be, battling for my life, basically.
And you're still kind of, obviously not through that period, but once you start to recover from the sepsis, or you start to respond to the treatment, your mind is immediately, this is the thing that's so fascinating to me, your mind immediately switches to, right, okay, well, what next? How do we get through this?
Yeah.
What am I going to be doing beyond this?
Yeah.
And these are all moments when most people, I think, would feel that they are. I think most people listening to this, I suspect, would feel that you were well within your rights, not to give up, of course, but certainly to, the why me bit, to be the loudest voice in your, the loudest words in your head, but they never were. It also strikes me that your pain threshold must be so, beyond.
A lot of people say that. I guess because during that time, the Strictly family was so great, and the producers, that they were going to get me involved as much as they could. That was my cling on. Do you know what I mean? Right, I've got to get well because I want to go to Strictly next weekend and I want to be back with the gang. And maybe if I hadn't had that during that period of just going from chemo to chemo and nothing to look forward to, I might have been a very different person.
Yeah, well, it's your physical pain threshold, but it's your emotional pain threshold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just remarkable.
Thank you.
You've spoken very movingly, Amy, about the effect that losing your hair had on your mental health and your self-confidence. This is something else that we've talked about on this pod as well with other guests. There were points, I think, when you couldn't bear to brush your own hair and look in the mirror. Now, that is, as you've explained, a central part of your identity, right? A fundamentally important part of your identity. Yeah. How did you manage that one in the end?
So my husband would brush it and he would hide away all the hair that was coming out and put it into a box. That's what I wasn't seeing. But I find it so tough, when I'm used to, wearing, all the glitz and glam Strictly. And then to, your identity being stripped away and, you don't want it. And, very, very like a feminine girl. And I did. My husband would find me crying most nights and have to come and chat to me and hug me and then give me some tough love. And then I had the decision I couldn't bear it anymore. Wherever I'd walk, there'd be a trail of hair left behind, or waking up in the morning seeing that hair all over the pillow. And I just knew that, I'd got quite a big bald patch that, it was going to fall out within the next session anyway. So I did take control and wanted to do it. It was the only thing I felt I could be in control of at the time. And I just thought, well, cancer, taking that from me. So on the Saturday, I decided tomorrow I'm shaving my hair. And my friends came round. We tried to make it like a fun afternoon as we possibly could. I had them dancing, of course, and they all cut a piece each. And we'd had no Prosecco to drink and some cake. And, it was tough, but we actually smiled, we laughed, and we cried throughout it. And I shared the video to try and help others and give them the courage or the hope that they needed, or to show that I'm too no different to you guys as well. And, we're in this together. But yeah,
is that control bit? Is that a part of the Amy operating system as well? The ability to let go what you can't impact, which is a sort of, again, something that is central to kind of crisis management, I suppose. Seems to come very instinctive to you. I know I can't control it, so I'm just going to let that go, and I'm just going to focus on the things that I know I can have some influence over. That's part of your approach?
100%, yes. And for me, it definitely helped. But I guess, there's no textbook on how to deal with this, and everybody's individual and they got to do what's right for them. But for me, that was the right thing for me to do at that particular time. I'd got my head around it. It wouldn't have been the right thing to do, say, a couple of weeks beforehand. But at that time, and it was what I needed within that part of my cancer journey.
Yeah. So, Amy, you've had this fantastic news off the back of the latest scan, but obviously, because we now understand, we've heard the story, your health challenges obviously are going to continue to be a part of your life. You're, having gone through this stage, having gone through these incredible challenges, though, how has it adjusted? How has it changed your attitude to the years ahead? I know you've talked about it already. You're someone who grabs every moment. But just give us a fuller idea of your sort of, without getting too grand about it, your philosophy now.
I guess I've been given a second chance of life, and I have lost people along the way. And a friend of mine who said, "Go grab life," and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that's why I wore a T-shirt saying that on my last chemo, "Go grab life."
Just tell us a little bit about that friend, please, just so that the listeners understand.
I met her, Nikki, her name is, and she got diagnosed with breast cancer. Unfortunately, got secondary cancer, and she did everything she could to raise awareness, and she was brilliant at it. And she did, yeah, her legacy would live on. And I reached out to her when I got diagnosed, and we became, as a fellow Pink Sister friends online. We'd send each other voice messages, and she was such a ray of sunshine for everything she she was going through, and knew that it was going to get her, but she didn't. I don't know. She didn't let it define her, and it gave me that hope. And when I heard the sad news that she'd passed, I was like, I'm going to go and grab life, and I'm going to do it for you. And I know that there's so many people that won't get the news that I've got, and I'm so grateful for that. And after everything I've had, I feel like I was robbed of 2023, that I'm going to make the most of every single day, every single opportunity. And I learned that in those sentences, sorry, Amy, it's cancer, that your life changes forever, and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So yeah, to tell your loved ones you love them, to spend time with your family and friends, but also, if an opportunity comes that, you dreamed along for, don't put it off, just do it.
Well, Amy, I'm so pleased that you got that news, and I'm so grateful that you come onto the podcast to share your story. It's an incredible story of resilience. It's inspiring to hear. And,
thank you so much.
Long may your recovery continue. If you've enjoyed this conversation with Amy, please do give us a rating and a review. It really does help. And if you hit subscribe wherever you download your podcasts from, you will find a lot more useful crisis conversations. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and you can watch the full episodes on YouTube. Just search for Crisis What Crisis Podcast. You can also find full transcripts of this and every episode we've recorded on our website, crisiswhatcrisis.com. Thanks so much for joining us.